Hi, Capricorn. So interestingly, here we have this spread for you. It's very apparent that whatever you've had lack of control over, or something that you've realized about your habits or your patterns that you haven't been able to see, and finally you see them and you realize, like, oh, if I don't see it, then I can't have my own control over it, right? So there's some motherly, fatherly things within you that are becoming very clear. I think that's a great month for the communication, for talking about the things that you want and need, and being like, I think you're going to become very clear and aware of how those come from, maybe patterns and programming, and what you decide to agree with and what you decide to let go with, so that you can get through this moment that almost feels like constraint. Hold on, I actually have to turn the light on. Can't forget the plants, the babies. See? You may feel like you're not, again, coming off in a way that is comfortable or normal, natural. It doesn't feel matured enough within you. But as you know, Capricorn, like when you finally do that, you almost feel instant relief, and you don't realize how much can come from that, from you experiencing and being able to, because when you have to be the adult, or you feel like the world, maybe you have external sources kind of, and it's not funny, but it is crazy, like external sources kind of feeling threatening or unsafe, unstable. Of course, you can more than likely, I think Capricorns go into high stress mode, and depending on where you're at, that can look very different. So this is affording you to realize that even if things are imploding, and I'm not saying that they are, that's not what I'm here to do. However, you can have fun and feel romance still. You can, or maybe you find romance again. Maybe romance comes back to life, because it's not that you're not a romantic, and you don't have to be either, because some people aren't. But for me, the romance is what comes if there's nothing left. I was going to say no resources, no this, no that. It's like, basically, if there's nothing left, what do you have? And it's like romancing yourself. It's creating art. You may also have someone who may reveal something to you, and it will cause this string of good luck. So Jupiter is going into Taurus. I always do that. Jupiter is going into Taurus very soon. And that means that in some way, shape, or form, it's going to trine you. Sorry for the pause. And that can open up a lot. Because here's the thing, especially with you, once something clicks and you don't feel ashamed for it anymore, and you don't feel guilt, and you recognize that it's very much a part of the human experience, and you finally get to that place, because you do. And again, only these specific areas, because you're vulnerable in this way. This is where you excel, right? And Mars in Cancer is like, we have to talk about some things. Like, it's time to talk about what hasn't happened, and why those things haven't happened, or what it is that you're learning from possibly the past. We also have Mercury in retrograde, because Aries season made it very clear there are places in your life where you've been holding yourself back. And there are times where you've been content with not controlling this part of the plan, but if this is a part of your plan, then there's some efforts that are needed to be made here, but in this way of that, the communication, the taking the internal dialogue, And that will enhance your material growth because you're enhancing the very important internal values, and those things go hand in hand. And then Venus is also going to be entering Cancer very shortly on the 7th. So I think that's something else that's bringing this into the conversation, because Mars does not move until the 20th, and it's going into Leo. So Cancer, yes, it could feel maybe a little harsher, heavier, but it gets the gunk out. Because if Leo comes not storming in, I didn't mean that, but comes storming in almost, yeah, let's just say that, then it can become heated when it doesn't need to, or it can become something that it doesn't need to be. Like you exacerbate the thing or exhaust the thing, and in this internal discussion, and it's kind of like, well, why are you waiting until now? Because now it's almost embarrassing, right? It's a different place where at this time things can go unseen. You don't need anyone else's approval or permission. You don't need anyone else at stake here. Not that they would be in trouble, but you don't need yourself to be so exposed if you don't want to be. There's a part of this that you can now take control of, and you could recognize that your efforts that have been going into this 10 of Pentacles life, it's not that they are lost. It's just not that someone, can't come along and offer you that. It's not it. It's just that you may need a change in perspective. And because what has been coming forth for you and who's been coming towards you are people who, yes, of course, can maybe want what you want, but then maybe they don't follow through. Maybe they're just not ready for that kind of life, that change. And you almost have this, and then, this is also a sign of Leo, but you have this way of taking a look at things where you can, and the Hangman has come up in almost every single reading so far, that it's making you realize that there's a freedom within yourself now, because you're not holding yourself to this exact way anymore. I think we talked about that last time. Is like, you can take some traditions, you don't have to, there's something about your own way here. And it's not that you can't do it by climbing the ladder if you'd like, but I would take a look around and, check in at this point and see what ladder you want to climb, or if there's this whole new ladder you want to build. Maybe there's something totally new beginning for you, because you have the time, the resources, you have the stability right now. And that's why sometimes, that's why everyone's story is somewhat unique. It's so unique because for you, an example, you need certain securities in order to be able to go through and process the internal evolution. And this is so clearly stated in this reading. When I come into these readings, I have people in my life that I know that are these signs or have placements in these signs, but it's not an overwhelming amount. It's tapping into the energy and feeling through what I know through what I know through learning, but also just through what the cards are expressing and experiencing here. Nothing has gone wasted either. Nothing is wasted. But there is, if you're feeling drained, or your resources are being, being drained, or, pouring out, you may realize that it's because wherever you are, whether it's in a company, or you work for a company, you work for someone else, or if it's in family life, there's something you've been trying for a while, or expressing in a way, or you're either expressing in a way that is not being heard properly, or you're not saying what needs to be said, and it's causing you to go through maybe a loop and not realize okay, I keep going through this thing where this is happening, where I'm like, you know, this doesn't matter anymore. I'm having a good time, you know, I have my freedom, I'm doing my thing. But then I also feel like I'm not pouring into myself emotion, or I feel like this lack of energy or this strain in some way. And it's like, I'm not pouring into your emotional side of yourself. And like, what does that even mean? Well, I thought it was doing all of these different things. I thought this was, but yeah, but your thoughts aren't your emotions, right? So whatever you need to keep this baby goat going, the beginning of the month will show you, almost like, or towards the middle of the month will really show you what you need to keep it going if you so choose to have that change in that altar in your life. You need to allow yourself to not get so caught up in what you tried that didn't possibly work. You know, not being so okay with that kind of stagnancy, because it's a perfect time to allow yourself to let go in that way if you can. Because it doesn't matter. No one can really see, like, the Four of Wands is also always this thing of saying, like, you can only see so much of someone's lives. Like, you think of people who are watched on the regular, like, whether it's famous people or you name it, like, just people that are watched and seen. Hold on one moment. But you can't see like fully in their lives. You don't really know what's going on. You know, you have no idea. And that's something like of an acceptance, that it doesn't matter what's happening right now. The only people who are really going to know are the people involved, like truly involved. And that person is you. You are involved. And maybe one other person, perhaps. You know, maybe you look to a person in your life who has a lot of willpower. And it could be a Virgo as well, who shows you that patience in this particular area is key. That maybe that's something that they've learned recently as well. Because whatever in Aries season, whatever risk you wanted to take, whatever change you wanted to make in a bolder way, just didn't work. It's just not the time. You know, like, or in a way that seemed that you knew, like, now you know you can allow yourself to fail or like fall or whatever it is, or jump off the cliff, because you know that whatever is happening, you're still making some kind of change. You know, you don't need the up close view right now. You need that widespread view, which is great about Taurus season, because you can do both. And it becomes very, like, extremely clear what hasn't worked, why what hasn't worked yet hasn't worked. Yeah. Yep. And it's about your own personal power. This is going to elevate that side of yourself, even not just in a graceful way, but in a sophisticated, even more sophistication. And yeah, it doesn't mean you can't, again, have fun. It's not that you can't take risks. It's not that. It's just that right now it's very clear that whatever space that, again, that you couldn't control, and now something's been brought to the forefront, let's bring it full circle, you can take care of that now with ease. You have the support of, whether it's someone who has passed, someone who's in your life, but the strength, right? While Venus is in Gemini, this is a great time to do this. Changes on the 7th. So before then, to clear up some things is a great time. It goes into Cancer, then it'll become a lot clearer, like, as to why, because it clears up the hurt. It clears up the emotion. It takes you in different directions that, you know, don't need to have a destination. you're kind of just being in it, right? And then the sun goes into Gemini, right? So that will be even more helpful if there's any loose ends. If there's any loose ends you need to cut off, okay, dear? We're gonna just stop there. Oh my God. And then, you know, just go full on. Like, you'll realize how much energy is cleared up in these dominant places that you're like, holy shit, I have so much more energy. You may go through a moment of like deep rest because you need it, but then you have so much energy, and it takes your confidence in your intuition, into your vision, into who you are even further, more elevated, more understanding of how much that was needed in these very deep values and these very necessary places. Pluto is going retrograde, will go retrograde very shortly when this comes out in Aquarius, and I think that you'll understand too, as that continues to go, why this was all needed, especially for Capricorn risings. That will be in your second house, resources, all that good stuff. You might even meet an Aquarius that is really good for you in this season. Again, yeah, just know that it's okay to focus on this, and then also give it space this month. All right, Capricorn? See you next month.